The blue light from your phone casts a pale glow across the ceiling. It's 10:47 on a Tuesday night, and you're doing that thing again. The thing where you're physically exhausted, but your brain just will not shut off. The thing where you know you need to sleep, but your thumb, it just keeps scrolling. Your apartment is quiet, except for the hum of your laptop charging and maybe a distant siren. It doesn't matter if you're in Brooklyn, Austin, or Denver. The view is the same. A skyline of lit-up offices where people just like you are still working, still answering emails, still pretending they have energy left. Your phone battery is at 67%, but you're just lying here letting it drain because rolling over to plug it in feels like too much effort. That's how tired you are. Too tired to move 6 inches, and yet you're wide awake. Your thumb is moving on its own, watching a guy you went to college with stand in front of a white oak bookshelf talking about his passive income streams. He's wearing a linen shirt. He's smiling like someone who hasn't checked his bank account with his stomach in knots. You close the app. You open it again. You don't even realize you're doing it. This is the ritual. The average person checks their phone once every 6.5 minutes of their waking life. But it's not the phone's fault. It's what we're looking for. We're looking for proof that escape is possible. Let's be clear about something. You make good money. Your W-2 last year said $98,000. Maybe you work in fintech in Chicago, or marketing in Boulder, or you're a project manager in Raleigh. You have a title that sounds impressive at family gatherings. Your parents don't really get what you do, but they know it involves a computer, and that makes them proud. Your apartment has nice things. A couch you financed, a candle that cost $48 and smells like sandalwood and regret, a coffee table book about Japanese design that you've never actually opened. You are, by every external measure, successful. And yet, it's Tuesday night, and you just Venmo requested your friend for the $48 you covered at dinner. Why? Because rent is due in 4 days, your checking account is sitting at $1,247, and you have this very specific, very accurate fear that if you dip below 4 figures, something bad will happen. You don't know what. The universe will notice you're vulnerable. The floor will give way. Your student loans started back up. Your rent went up $275 in January. Your therapist raised her rates and you didn't even blink, because the alternative is not having a therapist, and you know exactly how that ends. You're doing everything right. You contribute to your 401k. You have a Roth IRA that you opened during a moment of clarity in 2021 and have looked at exactly twice since then. You use a budgeting app that sends you push notifications. You trained yourself to swipe away without reading. But here's the number you don't look at. Your savings account balance. It's $3,420. That number hasn't moved in 8 months. It goes up $500 when you get a bonus, then down $600 when your car needs repairs. It goes up $200 when you skip happy hour, then down $400 for your best friend's bachelorette party. It's not a savings account. It's a turnstile. Money comes in, money goes out, and you're just standing here watching it pass. Here's what nobody tells you about being in your late 20s to mid-30s today. Our parents' generation, they had a script. Graduate, get a job, stay at that job for 18 years, get a pension, buy a house, retire. The script didn't always work, but at least it existed. There were guardrails. There were rules. Our generation. We were handed a blank page and told, write your own story. And what they didn't tell you is that a blank page is terrifying. A blank page means you never know if you're doing it right. A blank page means the pressure is always on, because you could always be doing more. So you do more. You answer emails at 10:47 p.m. You take the Zoom call, even though you're sick. You say yes to the project nobody else wants because you're building visibility. You check LinkedIn at 6:32 a.m. while you are still in bed and see that your former coworker just got promoted to director, and you feel a physical sensation in your chest that you try to convince yourself is just heartburn. Here was what's actually happening. You are trying to win a game that was rigged for you to lose. The game says, work harder, get promoted, earn more, spend more, repeat. The game says, your worth is your output. The game says, rest is weakness, boundaries are selfish, and financial security is always just one promotion away. But you've gotten the promotions. You've climbed the ladder, and you've noticed something strange. The ladder is attached to a hamster wheel. Let me tell you about Michael. Michael is 31. He lives in Seattle. He works in cloud architecture for a company you've definitely heard of. On paper, Michael is crushing it. His base salary is $142,000. He has equity that might be worth something someday. He gets free lunch and 23 days of paid time off that he never uses because he's too afraid of falling behind. Michael came to me last year and said, I don't understand what's wrong with me. I have everything I wanted. Why do I feel like I'm drowning? We looked at his numbers together, not his income, his outflow, and what we found is the key to breaking this entire cycle. If any of this sounds familiar, stick around, because in my next video, I'm going to show you exactly what Michael learned and how you can apply it to finally get off that hamster wheel for good. Michael spends $845 a month on food delivery, not groceries. Delivery. He's too exhausted to cook after 10-hour days, so he orders dinner at his desk at 7:30 p.m., eats it alone while watching YouTube, and throws away the containers the next morning on his way to get overpriced coffee because his machine at home needs descaling and he hasn't had the mental bandwidth to buy descaling solution. Michael spends $320 a month on subscriptions he forgot about, a meditation app he used twice, a fitness app that auto-renewed for 14 months, 3 different streaming services, a productivity tool he signed up for during a conference and never opened. Michael spends $180 a month on treat-yourself purchases. Small things. A $65 sweatshirt from Instagram. A $28 candle. A $42 bottle of whiskey. Nothing extravagant individually. Collectively, a hemorrhage. Michael isn't bad with money. Michael is exhausted. And exhausted people make expensive decisions. Exhausted people pay the convenience tax. Exhausted people confuse the feeling of buying something with the feeling of being someone. Michael's savings rate is 3%. At his income level, that's not a math problem. That's a survival adaptation. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are not irresponsible. You are not bad with money. You are not the exception to the rule. You are not the one person who somehow missed the class on adulting that everyone else apparently aced. You are running on empty in an economy that runs on your exhaustion. The average savings rate in America is 3.8%. Half of workers live paycheck to paycheck, not the struggling actors and starving artists. Half of workers, people with health care and 401ks and business cards that say, Associate Director. This is not a personal failing. This is a collective experience. This is the water we're all swimming in, and you didn't even realize you were wet. But here's the difference between the people who stay stuck and the people who escape. The people who escape stop blaming themselves long enough to see the system clearly. You've been playing a game where the goalposts move every time you get close. You've been told that more is never enough, that enough is a moving target, that contentment is complacency, and ambition means perpetual dissatisfaction, and you believed it. We all did. It's 10:52 p.m. now. Your thumb has been scrolling for 5 minutes. You've looked at 47 posts, 12 videos, and 3 ads. You've seen someone get engaged, someone announce a promotion, someone launch a podcast, someone post a before and after photo of their home renovation that cost more than your entire apartment. You've absorbed approximately 0% of this information. Your brain is too tired to process new data, but your thumb keeps scrolling because stopping means sitting alone with the question you've been avoiding. What if the reason I'm exhausted isn't that I'm not working hard enough, but that I'm working hard on the wrong things? What if the goal isn't to earn more, but to need less? What if freedom isn't a 7-figure bank account, but a Tuesday night where you don't feel like you're running from something? What if the people who seem to have escaped aren't smarter or harder working or more disciplined than you? They just figured out a secret that nobody bothered to teach you. The secret isn't about money. The secret is about what money is for. You've been told that money is for buying things. A better apartment, a nicer car, a vacation that photographs well, a life that looks from the outside like you've figured it out. But what if money is for buying something else entirely? What if the real currency isn't dollars, it's days? What if the goal isn't to have more, but to owe less? What if wealth isn't what you accumulate, but what you no longer need to tolerate? What if the 7-figure secret isn't about making millions, but about making your life yours? You put your phone down, it's 10:54. The blue light fades from the ceiling. The siren outside has moved on to somewhere else. Your laptop finished charging at some point. The light is steady green. You're still tired. You'll still wake up tomorrow and do it all again. The emails will still come. The notifications will still ping. The world will still demand your attention in 144 separate increments, each one pulling a thread from the fabric of your day. But something shifted tonight. You don't know what. You don't have words for it yet. You just know that you closed your eyes, and for the first time in months, you weren't trying to escape. You were just still. Tomorrow you'll check your phone at 6:32 a.m. You'll see a Slack message that makes your chest tighten. You'll order coffee you don't really need. You'll sit through 3 meetings, pretend to take notes, and wonder if anyone else in the Zoom grid feels as untethered as you do. But tonight you're still, and tomorrow you're going to do something different. You don't know what yet, but you know that staying in this loop isn't working. You know that more of the same won't produce different results. You know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting change. You're not insane. You're just tired. And tired people don't need more hustle. Tired people don't need more grind. Tired people do not need another productivity hack, or morning routine, or life-changing book about the power of discipline. Tired people need a way out. Tomorrow we're going to talk about why you keep getting stuck. Not because you're lazy, not because you're weak, because someone sold you a map to a destination that doesn't exist. But here's the thing about maps. You can always draw a new one. You just have to be brave enough to put down the one that's been leading you in circles. What if the lie you've been believing is not that you can have it all, but that all is what you're supposed to want? You know that feeling when you finally admit something to yourself. Not out loud, just in the quiet space between thoughts. The admission that you've been pretending. The moment the costume comes off. I want you to think about the last time you felt truly proud of a financial decision. Not relieved, not less anxious, proud. Maybe it was 3 years ago when you paid off that credit card. Maybe it was 2019 when you finally hit $10,000 in savings and took a screenshot you never posted anywhere because you didn't want to seem like you were bragging about something so basic. Maybe it was last week when you walked past a store window and didn't go in, and it felt like a small victory even though nobody witnessed it. Now think about the last time you felt ashamed. That one's easier, isn't it? The shame lives closer to the surface. The shame has better real estate in your memory. The shame shows up uninvited and stays for days. This is the first clue. This is the crack in the facade. This is the universe trying to tell you something. Here's what I need you to understand about the word bad. When a child touches a hot stove, we don't say they're bad at temperature. When someone speaks a language they never learned, we don't say they're bad at vocabulary. When you try to build wealth using tools and rules designed to keep you broke, you are not bad at money. You are using the wrong map. Let me introduce you to someone. I can't use her real name because she still works with clients who don't know her full story. So let's call her Priya. Priya is 34. She lives in San Francisco. She spent 9 years as an investment analyst at one of the largest asset management firms in the world. Her job was literally to evaluate wealth. She ran models on million-dollar portfolios. She advised clients on tax-efficient withdrawal strategies. She knew more about compound interest and asset allocation and risk management than 99.9% of the population. Priya was also $47,000 in credit card debt. Not from emergencies, not from medical bills, not from job loss, from $28 salads delivered to her desk because she was too overwhelmed to grocery shop, from $600 workout sets that promised to make her feel like someone who had her life together, from a studio apartment in a building with a doorman and a rooftop deck and a rent that consumed 52% of her post-tax income. Priya wasn't bad at money. Priya was performing wealth. Every morning, she walked through those glass doors in her Lululemon and her Allbirds and her wariness. Every morning, she sat at her terminal and analyzed other people's financial stability, while her own stability crumbled in increments too small to notice. Every morning, she ran the numbers for people who trusted her expertise, and she never once applied that expertise to herself. Why? Because applying it to herself would mean admitting she needed it, and admitting she needed it would mean admitting that the life she'd built, the impressive job, the expensive zip code, the aesthetic of success, wasn't actually working. It's terrifying to admit that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall when you're already halfway up. Here's the lie you've been sold. It comes in many packages. Sometimes it arrives as a commencement speech. You can have it all. Sometimes it's a targeted ad. You deserve this. Sometimes it's a well-meaning parent. We just want you to be happy. But underneath all the wrapping, the lie is always the same. Wealth is something you acquire. You work, you earn, you accumulate. You check the boxes in the correct order. You upgrade your apartment, your wardrobe, your relationship status, your weekend plans. You trade up. You level up. You show your work. You prove your worth through the evidence of nice things. The lie says, wealth is a destination. The lie says, wealth is a number. The lie says, wealth is the absence of wanting. Priya believed this voice for 9 years. She believed that her debt was evidence of her inadequacy. Priya's turning point came from a question so simple it felt like a trick. Her friend listened. He nodded, and then he asked, "What would you need to believe about yourself to fix this?" Priya opened her mouth to answer, closed it, opened it again. It's been 18 months since that conversation on the gray velvet sofa. Priya's credit card debt is paid off. Her savings account has 5 figures in it, for the first time in her adult life. She still works in finance, but she stopped trying to hide her past from her clients. Now she tells them the truth. I was $47,000 in debt, and I didn't know how to stop. Here's how I figured it out. Here's what I learned. Here's what I wish someone had told me sooner. Her clients don't trust her less. They trust her more, because she's not performing expertise anymore. She's embodying it. Priya told me something recently that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said, "I spent 9 years trying to build a life that looked successful from the outside. It took me less than 1 year to build a life that actually feels successful from the inside." The only difference was finally admitting that the outside view was never going to fill the inside hole. The inside hole. That's the part we don't talk about. That's the part we hide under the gray velvet sofa and the $68,000 car and the job title that impresses people at parties. That's the part we try to fill with purchases and promotions and proof that we're enough. But you can't fill an identity hole with achievements. You can't fill a belonging wound with bank statements. You can't purchase your way out of the fear that you're not measuring up. The only way out is to stop measuring. So, here's my question for you. Not the easy question about what you should do. The hard question about what you need to believe. What would you need to believe about yourself to stop performing and start building? What would you need to believe about your worth to know that it is untied to your zip code? What would you need to believe about your future to trust that scaling back isn't giving up? What would you need to believe about your past to forgive yourself for all the ways you were just trying to survive? What if the version of you who's been making these decisions is somewhat broken or lazy or bad with money? What if that version of you has been doing the absolute best they could with the tools they had? What if that version of you was never the problem? What if the problem was the map, and you've been following it faithfully, and it's led you in circles, and that's not your fault. And you can put it down any time, and nobody is going to punish you for finally admitting you're lost. What if the cage was never locked? What if you've had the key this whole time, and you just did not recognize it, because it did not look like the key you were expecting? What if the key isn't a new strategy, or a better budget, or a higher income? What if the key is just permission? Permission to want different things than you were told to want. Permission to measure success in days owned instead of dollars earned. Permission to be exactly where you are without pretending you meant to end up here. Permission to stop performing and start living. Permission to be enough right now, exactly as you are. Not because your finances are perfect, not because you've figured it all out, not because you've escaped the cage, but because you finally see the bars. And seeing the bars is the first step toward walking through the door. The cursor blinked on the screen, that thin, vertical line, pulsing like a heartbeat, waiting for something to happen. It was Sunday night, February 18th, 2024. Priya sat cross-legged on her floor because she'd sold the gray velvet sofa 2 weeks earlier, and the new one wasn't arriving until Wednesday. Her back hurt. Her laptop battery was at 12%. Somewhere in the apartment building above her, someone was playing the piano badly, the same wrong note every 8 bars. She had her banking app open. She had her budgeting app open. She had a notes document open with the words Financial Plan 2024 at the top in bold. She'd been staring at this screen for 47 minutes. 47 minutes to do something that would take 11 seconds to execute. This is what change looks like. Not a dramatic leap, not a triumphant breakthrough, not a soundtrack swelling in the background. Just a woman on a floor, a cursor blinking, and the immense weight of admitting that what you've been doing isn't working. Priya had read every book. She knew the theory cold. Pay yourself first. Automate your savings. Cut the lattes. She could recite the advice in her sleep, and sometimes she did, the words floating through her dreams like ghosts she couldn't shake. But knowing and doing are different countries, and the border between them is patrolled by fear. What if she set up the transfer and the money wasn't there? What if she committed to saving, and then something came up? What if she tried and failed, and the failure was worse than never trying at all, because at least never trying meant she could still believe she might succeed someday? The cursor blinked. Her battery dropped to 11%, and then she remembered something her carpenter friend had said weeks ago, when she was still deep in the performance of wealth, still drowning in 28 salads and $600 workout sets, and the exhausting work of looking like she had it together. He said, "You don't climb a mountain in one step. You just put your foot in front of the other and don't think about the summit." She hovered her thumb over the confirm button. The screen dimmed slightly, trying to save power. Her battery hit 10%. The wrong note from upstairs rang out again. She pressed confirm. The screen changed. Recurring transfer set up successfully. First transfer, February 18th, 2024. 11 seconds. 47 minutes of staring. 11 seconds of action. Priya closed her laptop. She sat in the dark of her empty living room, listening to the bad piano, and the hum of the refrigerator, and the sound of her own breathing. She didn't feel different. She didn't feel like she'd just done something important. She felt like she'd just admitted she had a problem. And that, it turns out, is exactly what change feels like at the beginning. Not triumphant, not empowered, just honest. Here's what nobody tells you about the first step. We have this cultural script about breakthroughs. The hero hits rock bottom, has a moment of clarity, and emerges transformed. The music swells. The montage plays. The credits roll. Real life doesn't have montages. Real life has Tuesday. Real life has a cursor blinking at 10% battery while someone upstairs plays the same wrong note over and over. Real life has you sitting on the floor of an apartment that's too empty and too expensive, and somehow both at the same time, wondering if $50 is a joke or a prayer or just a very small amount of money. The first step isn't dramatic. The first step is embarrassing, because $50 won't change your life. $50 won't pay off your debt. $50 will not buy you freedom or security or the ability to say no to things that drain you. $50 is objectively a very small number. But here's the thing about small numbers. They're the only numbers that exist at the beginning.